How's everybody doing? Excellent. Anybody sit through the keynotes this morning? Great job. Everybody did a great job. Good information. I told Art, just so you know, I told Art that he had to publish the data that was on his slides because it was really good information for all of us to have. So that'll be on the website soon. Hi, I'm Steve Brumer. I'm with a company called BH IoT Group. I've been doing mobile channels for about 30 years and being in the IoT M2M channel business for over 25 years. My claim to fame is I did the first Coca-Cola machine back in the early 1990s with a modem about this big and an antenna about this big, getting data like 2.5 minutes later after we got the data. So it's been a long time and a long road to the great place that we are today in IoT. And my cohort here, and this will be our what? Third time doing? Third time.
It's the ham and egg show.
Ham and egg. Why do you still invite us back to do this together? That's crazy. Go ahead.
So I'm Natasha Coons. I have two companies. So I've been in the channel, like 20 years. So a lot of you know me more from my TeraNova days. That's a company I founded 12 years ago. And we cut our teeth on machine-to-machine networks before there was even a term for it. So that's where my passion lies for IoT, because took that journey, right, in terms of building networks with wireless technology before people believed that it could be a thing. And now I believe we're on the cusp of that with IoT. The other company that I'm part owner of is AskAdvantix. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for AskAdvantix. And we have a single pane of glass where we're loading all telecom assets, wireline, wireless, and IoT. So where I think things are going with IoT is there's the connectivity piece, there's all the components we're going to talk about, but there's also an aspect where we need to track all these assets and things. And I mean, the level of things that we need to track is at 45 billion in 3 years. So does anybody know how many people are on Earth, on planet Earth? Just guess. 7? Nice, 7.7. So quick math would be about 6 connected devices per person is where we're headed in the next couple of years. So just the opportunity here, right? Whether it's, we're going to talk about equipment, connectivity, the platform, the business intelligence. So we're going to also debate, is there such a thing as IoT bundles or IoT in a box? So with that, we'll get started.
There you go. So in the room, tell me if you're an agent or a dealer or a VAR. Can you raise your hand, please? Okay, so let's see, this is what and the rest of us are all vendors in the business, I would assume. Is that correct? Vendors? Wow, that was quick. I'm a vendor. That's good. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to set the stage with the market opportunity. And actually, this is you, Steve, kind of talking through some of the industries. I'm going to give you a couple more statistics here in a moment, but we're going to tee things off with just kind of doing a bit of a deep dive into where we think the verticals are, and then specifically where it plays into the channel.
So having been in the business 25 plus years, I've seen so many different applications that have actually fallen by the wayside because we haven't had solutions that are available that actually solve the problem of our customers. So today the model has changed dramatically where we're seeing these types of vertical market segments that are working on a daily basis and a lot of different proven abilities to solve customers' problems. IoT is basically, how many people are in the room have sold IoT products and services? Okay, so I don't have to explain it to you in depth. You know, it's sometimes when we go do our channel thing, and if you look at what our statistic was, that 1% of the people are looking at IoT, which I think is an absolutely low, wrong number. But normally when we're training them, we go, IoT is, here's how basic it is. It's an if-then statement. If the temperature rises, then I turn the fan on. That's as basic as we have to do for a lot of the VARs, the dealers, and the agents that have never done this before, never sold it, so we have to bring it down to its basic common denominator. But tell me, what is the largest single growth area in IoT today? Anybody have an idea? Yes, ma'am. Manufacturing, discrete manufacturing, monitoring type of thing. Definitely one of the top ones. Any others? Yes, sir. Buildings? Yeah, coming close. It's definitely a huge growth opportunity that's there. Yes, ma'am. Transportation, asset tracking, and fleet. That's correct. AVL GPS tracking is the number one on a worldwide basis. from that standpoint. So as you can see these numbers and you look at industrial IoT, we'll start from the bottom there and that growth that's there, that is a huge marketplace. And if you look at it from a platform standpoint, you see that Rockwell Automation just did $1 billion investment into PTC ThingWorks. Huge opportunity there to understand that we're getting companies like a Rockwell, Allen Bradley, Siemens now spending an exorbitant amount of time on the industrial IoT side. Medical IoT, huge growth opportunity. The sensors that are now involved with as far as diabetes sensors and other types of sensor devices on a consumer basis. You're looking at tracking devices that are now available.
I want these back, by the way.
Yeah, those are all medical IoT tracking devices that are tied directly to the back end of various areas. Connected car is huge. How many people have a connected car today? Almost any car in the last 5 years that you've bought brand new is connected in some way, shape, or form. It's what you're doing with it or what the data is being done. For example, on my Range Rover, I turned it off, and on my Lexus, I turned it off. I don't want to inform on my Lexus. I don't want them knowing every little damn thing about me. If the light goes on, I'll tell you, but I don't want to have that situation. So there's a lot of people that are saying, no, I don't want those types of things going on. But as we get into vehicle to vehicle, whether it is through 4G, 5G, or whatever, whatever transport model it is for communications, connected car is going to be huge. Anybody from an AT&T in the room? So you got, what, a million SIMs a month putting out that Chris and the group are putting out. It's a phenomenal number when you start to think about how many SIMs that's one carrier is putting out in the connected car world from today. Smart cities, how many people have sold a smart cities deal in this room? One.
Wow.
Very difficult sale. ROI is an issue. Big names, big things going on. If you go over to China, if you go over to India, a lot of opportunities. One reason why those countries got more smart cities deployed than we do in the U.S. Correct. Bureaucracy and the money coming out from the states. So the government's paying for the 50 state projects in India. We'll never have that opportunity here. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe, but smart buildings within smart cities, huge opportunity. Traffic, CAMs, and those kind of programs that are there. So there's some of the growth.
And then specific to the things that are near and dear to us in this room, actually, couldn't see a breakout. How many are agents? Oh, wow, this is interesting. That hardly ever happens at channel partners. Mostly it's agents. How many are VARs or MSPs? Distributors? Okay, carriers? Okay, awesome. Really nice mix. So as it relates to things that we really care about in the channel, the IoT services market in regards to the IT aspect or installation, that's this year projected to be at $260 billion. As it relates to the hardware component, so those are the wearables that I sent around the room. Yeah. Here's a sensor. So, I think a lot of you guys are really educated on IoT, which we're not used to. Steve and I used to like doing more 101, but this is as small of a form factor as it can get. Some of the IoT providers are creating multiple sensors in a black box. But as it relates to that market, that's at $200 billion this year. In regards to IoT software, this is the fastest growing segment of the things that we care about. That's at 16% year-over-year growth, and that market is at $150 billion this year. And on the connectivity side, especially for the agents and those of us that have been building networks for a while, ironically, that's the lowest at $83 billion, but still nothing to sneeze at. But what we're going to be talking about today is I just gave you a breakout of the things that matter in our ecosystem, but certainly we're going to be talking about, is there such a thing as a bundle? Is IoT in a box a myth? And how are all these things, how are all the distributors in the room, of VARs, which I'm going to be asking some of you guys to weigh in here. How are you trying to deliver this to the channel partner to make this a more digestible conversation to customers? So with that said, we're going to get into some key business needs. And is there such a thing as a horizontal business challenge? Can we take a horizontal business challenge, some easy qualifying questions, and dive into a vertical? Maybe that's the way, right, to crack the code on IoT. So with that, we're going to go into a couple of case studies. I'm going to take the temperature one, but do you have something, Steve, before I get started?
Keep going.
Okay.
I have a lot of them. But.
All right. So we're not here to be an ad. We both have businesses. But I'm going to be throwing out a lot of names of companies, and I'm not getting paid up here to be an advertisement for anybody, but I just want to give you guys a flavor of what people are doing, right? So there's a company, you probably know, My Devices. Sprint backs them as an investor. And I think it's been fascinating what they've done for the channel, because what they've done is try to really simplify this for us. So they took something like temperature and said, okay, you guys, for refrigeration, can we talk about, do you care if the temperature spikes? And try to, really make it easy. So I'll give you a use case. Let's see. Okay, there's a big hotel here, and the way that they were taking temperatures on the food was manual. So can you imagine that? We're all sitting at these fancy restaurants, and it's a manual process. And I've seen the spreadsheet. You know what it looks like? Looks like an 11-year-old took a graph and put here are the refrigerators and here are the times. And guess how compliant it was? Guess how many boxes were filled in? Not very many. It was like a checkerboard, right? So the people in general make like maybe $60 an hour that are going around, right, taking this information. And so what this, IoT in a bundle did was to say, okay, let's make this easy. We're going to put a sensor, one of these guys, next to a refrigerator. I'm going to skew it up. It takes 4 minutes to install. Okay, it becomes automated. So this hotel spent $250,000 a year to create this solution manually or to support it. So guess, after we put in 100 sensors, and this is just in the F&B, right, the food and banquet department. So after 100 sensors, 3 gateways, and 1 cellular gateway, guess what the MRC is? Just guess. Just give me a number. No. $700? Well, it's $12,000 annual, so $1,000 a month. But think about that ROI. So, just as an example, I think it's been amazing what they've done for the channel here, and just taking something simple and saying, okay, guys, let's not make this overly complex. Let's just get a gateway deal done. So guess what happens? You go to the F&B, right? And then you go to the next department. So the next thing they installed was sensors on the pipes of the same hotel. So when the hot water is too hot or the cold water is too cold, a lot of times you don't know where that's coming from in the hotel. And because of the sensors, they can isolate it and send plumbing or maintenance right to the issue. And guess what that means? Lower operational costs and great customer experience, CX, right? So those are some of the examples I wanted to share with you. But go ahead, Steve.
So how many people sell ROI when they're selling IoT? All of us. Right? You have to still prove to customers that by deploying IoT, regardless of the vertical market or the horizontal market you're selling into, you have to be able to prove that there is some way of being able to get your money back, and that is from data. How many people are making money off of data in the room? A handful. That will change dramatically over the next several years. You will be making most of your money from data, because as much as the carriers are in the room, and if there's modem manufacturers and chipset manufacturers in the room, those numbers are starting to drop dramatically. The cost is now down to, 50 cents a month for NB-IoT. We're now getting to the point of where modules are under $5 for LoRa. The numbers are going there. So you're going to have to make money in IoT from something other than that. And it's going to be services and integration services completely. So when the reason that the yang is up here from the yin on the stage is that
Thing 1 or thing 2.
Or thing 1.
Freaking frack.
And I'm not thoroughly convinced that IoT in a box today is a viable model. I've been doing this too long. Distributors. I saw hands of distributors one here. Is there a single SKU today in your product listing where it's IoT that it can be totally sold and just sent to a VAR to be deployed? Excuse me? Not yet. Yeah. You have 3.
Nice.
And you're with? And so to the point with Tech Data will sell you one single SKU. I will receive that as a VAR and I'll be able to deploy that. Perfect. But that's 3. We need 33, 103 to be able to get to the point of where it is. So it's difficult. It's getting easy. It's getting a little bit better than it was even a year ago. What network is it? Is it on terrestrial or is it on LoRa? It's in a cloud-based. And is there modems involved? Is it nothing? It's a gateway in one spot. Okay, so a little different. So if you were connecting trucks, or if you were connecting some kind of mobile assets as related, a little bit more difficult to have it than not having it in a box. So, yeah. Correct. I think that you're going to look at that long term. So it doesn't matter what vertical market segment you're looking at. Network failover is a lot easier, right? You can buy a Cradlepoint router, stick it in, got a SIM already fulfilled in there, turn it on. When you get to the retail location or the ATM machine, it goes. And some people call that IoT, some people don't, but today it's still called IoT, and that's about as simple in-a-box solution that you can get. The LoRa products that my devices sell, again, is only on LoRa, so you have a little limitation on it, and that's a gateway-related product. So it's a little bit simpler to be able to come out of the box to be able to do that. But I think long term, I'd like to, as we were kidding last week, I'm kind of like in the last chapter of my career, and I always say that I will probably be retired when 3 becomes 300. And then there's 300 boxes out there that are there that I can tell my grandchildren that would have existed. So,
Excellent. Let's see, we talked about business needs, market segmentation. I think we're on the fence on this. I feel like with some of the mid-market, if we can hone into a horizontal need, the beauty of the room of channel partners here is that we have a unique capability to be a trusted advisor with IT, but now with IoT, we can make that line to do the translation and the liaison and be the bridge to the line of business manager, right? Like earlier I talked about the F&B department. But let's just take a hospital. So that's another scenario where you might go in and talk refrigeration, and maybe you are. You can start with the lab, you can start with the pharmacy, and you can cross over. So I think the beauty of what we have in the channel is taking now this, which is a very line of business decision, making that bridge to IT. And I'm sure IT would really, like the fact that we are helping them steer away from shadow IT when line of business make decisions on their own. And so as it relates to SMB, I think that's a viable space. Steve feels that he really lives in the enterprise space, and where I think customization, to be honest, I'm sitting on the side of the debate where I do believe that we do have more bundles, and it's important in the channel to have more simplified conversations. But the reality is that at some level of the market segmentation, when you're working with Coca-Cola, GE, and they're looking at how IoT is affecting them holistically as a business, there's certainly integration and customization that's required. And just one piece on the distributor world. So, we've got ScanSource in the room, we've got Tech Data. I don't know if we have any other distributors. But I think you're in a very, very interesting space where you have all these SKUs, right? And you're trying to simplify it. But in speaking to some of you, and again, I'm not going to be an ad for anybody, I think it's been fascinating what some of you have been doing, which is creating a subject matter expert overlay. Some of you have been taking 1 to 2 very successful deployments and saying, this works for this vertical, now I'm going to run it over to product, and we're going to create some collateral, and we're going to go help our VAR partners now focus in these segments a little bit closer to bundling, a little bit closer to turnkey, and trying to get everybody's brains to kind of wrap their head around how to do this simply. So I think it's fascinating that distributors are moving there. Master agents, who do we have in the room for Intelisys? Anybody else?
yeah, I asked before.
So I think it's, and then I'm going to go ahead, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but if you don't mind, Steve, I'm going to pick on this gentleman here. So I met Matt in a dinner in Nashville, and they are a VAR. They $400 to $500 or so million annual revenue, and a key part of their strategy. You guys have been in business what, 20 years? 90? Whoa. Wow. So 90-year-old business, right? And they're trying to figure out, how am I going to transform? How am I going to make it in this digital transformation age? And so fascinating, Matt is director of IoT, and they have a specific niche, which is retail, which is one of the segments up here. And I'd love to just at least have Matt kind of tell us a little bit about your journey, and how are you going to take a $500 million VAR and not get stuck in the world of boxes and go all the way to becoming what you want to be, which starts with, I think, $1 billion. But go ahead, Matt, if you can give us an example. I think it's interesting for everybody to hear that journey.
So our business has been grown completely organic, starting off in the electrical construction space. So we're a very physical layer. We're an OT integrator. Over the years, we grew up into layer 1 infrastructure cabling, fiber optics, category cabling, and we've always been on the facility side of the world. About 10 years ago, we became a Cisco Gold partner, knowing that we needed to transform everything. We were doing all the plumbing for Cisco. Why not sell the services that go along with it? And shortly after that, we started in FISEC. We have a industrial controls and automation group coming out of the electrical space. So we have all these different vertical technologies we support. And our whole IoT strategy is the marriage of all of those different vertical technologies across different vertical markets as well. So healthcare, retail, and manufacturing are our 3 top priorities in the IoT space. We feel that's the quickest addressable market that we can take advantage of. And we're taking technology from industrial, we're putting it into healthcare. We're taking healthcare technology and putting it into retail. We're buying as much off the shelf from our distributor partners as we possibly can and really banking on the services, right? So I can technically say we have IoT in a box because I can buy any manufacturer's product. It's the services that go along with it. You know, we're an electrical, if you look this up in the trades, we're an electrical contractor. I have a registered nurse on staff from a business development perspective that's talking to the chief nursing officers, that's talking to the floor nurses to help translate technology into their world. And we've seen a tremendous amount of success in bringing those subject matter experts that have no relevance in technology. I mean, our nurse that's on staff, she doesn't know IP versus, you know, quality service or anything. She just knows how the nurses need to do their job, and then she brings it back to us from the technology perspective.
Right.
Yeah. And I think when you look at the small, medium-sized VARs that are out there today, would you say that the 3 SKUs are mostly sold by SMB focused? Yeah, so that they need, right? Because if you look at today with 150, 160,000 VARs and dealers and agents out there in our place, and how many of them are qualified as mobility partners, it's a lot smaller than that. Most of the SMB VARs are having a harder time getting into IoT. That is one of the big things that we in the industry, since there's a lot of us that are committed to the industry in one way, shape, or form, is we're lacking education. And one of the things that we do is we do traveling road shows to educate the channel that is out there. Because I firmly believe that not only us as vendors and ecosystem players need to be educated on what's going on from new product standpoints and new ideas, but we have to educate our VARs that are out there in the world. So one of the big things I've focused in over the last several years have been smart ag. And it was interesting when Art said, how many people are farmers out here? And no one raised their hand. But you take this show and we go to Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or Nebraska, and you're going to have everybody everybody raising their hand. And those VARs are usually about 8 people. Well, how are we going to find one person within that haystack of a VAR? I've used that line before. To be able to be trained on doing smart ag. So you can use an example of what John Deere is doing, but John Deere is a monopoly as far as you can't, as a farmer, do anything to your John Deere tractor or it violates your lease or your warranty on your product. So if I'm a VAR, I can't do anything to repair that system that Art was talking about up there in that tractor. You can't, there's a lot of things you can do, the pest control, the weather stations, a lot of the sensor system, you can do that, but the average small farmer VAR is having a hard time trying to get to that particular point. So we're doing things at the Iowa State Fair, we're doing something at the Wisconsin State Fair this year, a 2-3 hour educational training session for VARs and channel partners within the farming community. So you have to be able to look at that as a little different model. The enterprise is different, right? The enterprise, if you look at, I had lunch yesterday with one of the top 8 consulting firms in the world, $1 billion IoT practice. You know, I mean, but it's huge projects, you know, smart grid projects, smart city projects on a worldwide basis, huge, you know, doing the hotels. They have Encore and Win fully LoRa based, full Sigfox deployed, 1,500 sensors. I didn't even know this app existed. You know that housekeepers today are going to have a panic button with them at all times, that they're getting choked in like bad things happening to them in hotel rooms, and so now there's a law coming out to do. That's a LoRa-based sensor that every housekeeper and maintenance person at the Wynn and Encore carry with them at every given time that can pinpoint what room they're in based on fixed wireless assets and LoRa gateways. That's a pretty cool application. Great services that are deployed, and it's all tied together with your application.
Right, and along those lines, so this is a gateway, and there could be different gateways. In this case, this was LoRa, which is probably within 5 miles. This one, if you guys want to look at, this is BLE beacon. So there's a lot of different technologies, but the goal is to, of all these things I've been passing around, is like we've been talking about, can you bundle it? And so specifically, I'm just going to wrap up with one more or two more vertical solutions, just to kind of think about where the opportunity is. So in regards to healthcare, so just a 200-bed hospital, if you were to penetrate every department, you're going to get about 400 gateways. These are just ratios, right? Everybody's going to design a little bit differently, but just moving more towards, can we think about sensors, gateways, cellular gateways, monthly recurring? What does that look like? 200-bed hospital, 400 gateways, 2,000 things we're going to track in general. That's taking control, right, of the hospital. The MRC there is 18,000. So in regards to the VAR partners in this room trying to create a residual revenue of the distributors or the agents that are enjoying recurring revenue today, this is when you're starting to get into something beyond the, the 1K MRC that I talked about earlier. From a manufacturing standpoint, if you look at a 20,000 square foot facility and you maximize that, we're talking about 10,000 things, about 40 gateways. So kind of the reverse. That monthly recurring charge, and so the sensor that I was, that's about $9, right? The gateway, about 25, 30. This is where I'm trying to really, really make it get really specific and a little less custom. So you look at that MRC, okay, so again, 40 gateways, 10,000 things, that's a $30,000 monthly recurring charge, leveraging IoT. So for the folks at channel partners that only express 1% interest in IoT, they're probably not thinking that upon scale, you can really get that residual revenue to a place closer to cloud or circuits. Let's see.
Natasha, tell us who ThinAir is.
So ThinAir is one of our sister companies. From the perspective of one of the 3 owners, Nathan Brown in the back, he's our founder. They made an investment a couple years ago. They saw where, as a TEM and IoT are going to converge at some point, so had the foresight to invest in ThinAir. And ThinAir is a channel-centric company. Again, I don't want to sound like an ad. That's not my goal. But the point was to try to create this thing, right? Like a starter kit and all these things I've been passing around the room, and focus on a couple of verticals in IoT. So, but that's, like I said, I throw out my devices, there's ThinAir, but there's only, I truly feel like, a handful of suppliers that are becoming channelized and bringing this in a way that, again, when we talk about the IoT landscape, it's more digestible, it's more repeatable. And just one more note, Tom. So I've been speaking to Tom and team, and it's been fascinating that they are taking IoT plug and play to 80%. And then 20%, they're saying to their VAR partners, this is where the customization begins. So anyway, but thanks, Greg. That's who ThinAir is. All right.
So when we look at channel partners and the bundles and the consulting part of this, we're seeing that it varies dramatically between what you are. If you're an agent or a dealer, you're less apt to be able to do consulting services or systems integration services complete, where you're making a lot of the extra money from deploying a complete solution. But when we look at what MSPs are all about and how they're making their money today, those have been the easiest to talk to get through to look at managed services on the IoT side, because they get it. They understand it. They understand the billing proposition. They understand the value of their company. One of the things that Janet said this morning is that was a huge way to be able to grow the value of your organization. There's no doubt about it, and that's across the board. I mean, if you look at Tech Data and you look at Cinex and some of the numbers that you have from an activation standpoint and how much commission you pay out every month to channel partners for activations on your MVNO contracts, I mean, those are huge numbers, and that number is not going down anytime soon. And if you look at some of the larger integrators like the CDWs and the SHIs and those people, and you look at how many tablets and how many other IoT devices they're selling with activation services and bundled with it, the numbers are astronomical, and the growth is going to continue. So it really depends on where you are in that ecosystem. And then when you look at the ecosystem in general, IoT-specific providers versus standard stocking, broadline distributors, and master agents, it's significantly different. On the carrier side, you're working through someone else. How many people are Apex members here on the AT&T side? So only a few, but if you look at some of the programs that the carriers have now available, and you can obviously talk to them here at the show, they have some excellent programs, but they don't give you all the tools. You still need to go to the distributors. You still need to go get some of that information from wherever you would get those products and services across the board. But it's 100% better than it was. I mean, I was a stocking distributor for a company. I owned a company called Global Wireless Data. We sold it to Ingram, Brightpoint. We were the first BlackBerry distributor in the United States. Who the hell knew what BlackBerry was going to become? We just took it on as a line and figured out what was going on. But it ended up being that the margins got so small on the BlackBerries as they got through the 600s and how many people had 600s, 6710s, and so we went through that whole model. It became software. And we bought a company called Outer Curve who did the software. And that was where the money was. No different today. Sensors are going down in prices. Gateways are going down in prices. You can get a LoRa gateway for $300, $400, $500 that are, with a 4G LTE module in there with a SIM card. I mean, the numbers are going down. You have got to get into the software and the managed services, no matter where you are on the ecosystem chain.
And so we broke it down to say there's the equipment piece, right? If you look at the ecosystem, you can go and purchase from a distributor, get all the SKUs, or you can go closer to, what we're talking about in terms of bundling. But on the equipment side, there's the sensor, the gateway. If it's on the move, you need cellular. And then there's the connectivity piece. There's the systems integration. Oh, not to mention, before all that, the design and consulting aspect. On the platform side, so this is, this has come really far too in terms of just having analytics on a dashboard as opposed to having to custom all of that. But latest count, right? We've been bantering about this. 700 platform providers. Does anybody know, maybe one of the distributors, do you guys know how many sensors are out there? I mean, I don't know the number. I'm just curious. Tens of thousands? Yeah. So if you're out there, you're a systems integrator, how do you choose out of 600 to 700 platforms? So that's what we're trying to.
Yeah, and it becomes very difficult for you to understand. I mean, if you're a VAR and you're a Microsoft shop, you're going to go with Azure IoT as a platform. If you're an Amazon Web Services company that resells that, you're going to look at AWS for your platform. So you're going to go with what you know and what you're most comfortable with. But you can find a platform for virtually anything. And the crazy thing about the IoT space, is there any platform players here from the IoT space? Great. Oh, stop it, Chris. I'm not even bringing you up. But if you know, it's difficult because you have an application platform, you have a device management platform, you have a connectivity platform, right. And we're looking for one single throat to choke, and it's becoming more and more difficult until there is some kind of consolidation in the marketplace where you're marrying all those different platforms up, and we can buy it online in a cloud base, or it's a SKUable item, and I just buy it and I get everything. Again, I'm probably going to be retired by the time that crap happens, but that would be really cool to be able to have that to that point where it is available across the board, and it's affordable, and it's easy as a one dash. One of the biggest challenges, and I always say this to people that say, well, what would you do if you had, it's interesting they used a $10 million number. That's normally what I ask. If Steve Brumer were to give you $10 million in the IoT space, what would you do with it? And my answer continues to be, I would become a systems integrator. Because, don't take this wrong, I can't rely on the distributors, I can't rely on the carriers, I can't, don't carriers, don't throw stuff at me. I know that you do professional services and stuff, but only on your network. not on 15 other networks that I may need to deploy on a worldwide basis. So systems integration still continues to be the most growth opportunity for anybody that's in the channel overall, but because of the idea that you have to marry equipment, you have to marry connectivity. You know, if you're an NVNO like a Core or an Aris or one of those types of companies, or you look at what Sierra is doing with Numerex, and you look at some of the other opportunities, Telit is doing from a module standpoint, but they are also an NVNO. There's a lot of people that are trying to marry all those different things, and it's all related again to a common platform and being able to put it all together. And then the biggest thing is we're going to talk about is analytics. I firmly believe that eventually data will drive where we are, because the data is going to be the most easiest sold aspect of what we have. Today, you know, you've heard these numbers. Right now in the IoT space, we're analyzing somewhere around 5 to 15% of all the data that's coming in into a platform. 5 to 10 to 15%. That's a lot of excess data that's not being utilized and being used to produce results that you can potentially use. And the hardest part is that the average data scientist, anybody employ a data scientist in this room? $120,000 starting salary? I mean, how many can you hire to start to look at your data? If you're a big company, sure, but if you're a small, medium-sized company, it's hard to do. So you have to look at how you're going to get to that data. Not everybody is going to employ IBM Watson to have the big Watson guy in the sky give you all that data for what amount of money. Remember when IBM Watson bought the Weather Channel, they didn't buy it to know what the hell the weather was. They bought it for the data. And so that's going to continue to be the case no matter what vertical applications or markets you're looking at.
And I think this is where Steve and I definitely agree. Oh my God. Yes. So I think we have 5 minutes left, so we'll wrap up on just key insights, and then we can go to Q&A if there's any time. But a gentleman, really great guy, if you want to look him up on LinkedIn, Vikrant Gandhi, he's the IoT director. He's director of IoT, mobile, and mobile payments at Frost & Sullivan, which is a think tank. And so when I just spoke to him last week, just to pick his brain a little bit, he just said, Natasha, the thing with real-time insights on IoT, he said that thing is 4 to 5 years out. So we're starting to crack the code on bundling at 80%. You know, the things that Matt and team are trying to do, the IoT analytics piece is far, far out. So that will require ongoing customization. In regards to key insights, and we'll wrap up here, I talked a little bit about the fact that in this room of channel partners, we are the trusted advisors to IT and then getting to the line of business managers. And there is no more unique opportunity than the IoT conversation. And I think we can bridge that gap and be the liaison and really capitalize on that in the next couple years.
And I think education is huge. You have to get out there and go to the events that are out there that allow you to listen to the webinars. In addition to channel partners, Joel is here from Channel Partner Pro magazine and IoT Playbook. Go to that website, go to their events, amazing things. You have to educate yourself on what's happening in order to grow and know what people are doing out there and are going to help in the channel. I don't really care what the numbers are. I've been an analyst and been in this thing too long. I've heard every number in the world. I don't care if it's 2 billion units or 3 billion units. What it equates to me is money. There's a lot of money involved in this business and a lot of growth opportunities. And when you look at growth from a channel perspective and an ecosystem perspective, I'm always looking for where is the money and how fast can I get it. And right now, and I hate to use the hockey stick because many of us that have been in these businesses and these industries for a long time, we're in the bottom of the hockey stick, it's going to go. This one maybe will be a great hockey stick. We don't, who the hell knows? But it's still a good calculated opportunity for all of us to get involved in it, regardless of what Frost & Sullivan, Aberdeen, Gartner, whatever they talk. All I know is that they're all in the 20, $50 billion, 50 unit billion number. That's pretty cool for me. I'm okay with that. That's a lot of units. Like I said earlier, with my first company, TeraNova, we cut our teeth on machine-to-machine, and there wasn't even a word for it. And now, would you ever doubt that you can build a robust wireline-like network, reliable, uptime, using wireless technology? Would anybody in this room question that? No, it's a given. Or cloud. A couple years ago, right, people started evangelizing in the channel,
Thank you, Lorna. And for all the folks that, try to educate the entire partner community, now we're really starting to make strides. Would you ever doubt that cloud migration is the path to the future? Right, we're here. So I feel like
But there are a lot of people that are asking for on-prem servers again. It's interesting.
Okay.
From a security standpoint, there's a lot of on-prem stuff being converted back.
Right, right. Hybrid solutions and all that. Yeah, absolutely. It's always a pendulum with us, right? in IT and technology. And so I believe that with IoT, right now it feels a little bit uncomfortable, feels a little bit still more like vaporware, a little bit of magic potion and dust. But I think what we're trying to do is create repeatable solutions with verticals using horizontal business challenges. And we're going to get there, and hopefully we can capitalize on one of the biggest net new revenue opportunities in technology.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
On-prem.
The larger the corporation, the more on-prem I'm seeing. So I work with a Fortune 50 company in Wilmington, Delaware. They're running Azure IoT in the cloud from a platform perspective, but also looking at a lot of on-prem product servers for certain IoT deployments in like smart buildings and smart cities and things like that because of the security aspects. Yeah, absolutely, and it's the cloud today is a simple, easy way to get up and running. So I don't care.
Oh, we got the orange sign from James.
We don't. There's nothing after us.
Are you ejecting us?
There's nothing after us. That's why. Any other question? That was a great question. Any other questions at all? Wow, we thrilled you so much that you have nothing else to add to this. Yes, ma'am. It's because of the mass amount. What are you doing with it? ROI today in IoT is almost too simple. I need to know this thing, and that's it. But there's this massive amount of data that's coming in. And it's not whether it's structured or unstructured, it's just data. But no one knows what to do with it. What's that value going to be? Can it be sold? There's a lot of companies that I deal with that are getting all this data going, well, our analysts have said that we can get a lot of money in recurring revenue from the data if we sold it to someone. Well, who the hell's buying it? I don't know it. We try and sell it to Watson. We try and sell it to Amazon and Google, but they ain't buying because they think they got everything themselves anyway. So it's an interesting part on the data side. And the hard thing about buying, let's say I wanted to buy data, where do you go? I mean, everybody seems to be wanting to go to Seattle to go buy data, or Silicon Valley to go buy data. And that's great in the IoT space, but it's not like I'm going to a IoT data analytics seller. It's just a hard thing today. It's going to change dramatically, though. It has to, because that's where the growth opportunity is. So, all right. Any conclusion comments from you?
No, I think
that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Oh, there you go.
So we will be
again. They keep on asking us.
So Lorna and team at Informa and Connect 365 are putting on IoT World, the pre-conference workshop. So we'll be there in Santa Clara, Silicon Valley in May. If you're interested,
Monday,
right after Mother's Day.
Yep.
We have a full workshop on all things channel and IoT.
IoT in the channel all day.
Yep. And so just to give you a snapshot of how big the world of IoT is outside of the channel for a minute, 30,000 attendees at the show and growing every year. Guess how much they have to pay to get in? Just
$2,800 is the full conference pass.
These people are paying that kind of money at the 30,000 attendee, So anyway, but
if you're bored out of your mind and you're in
in
Santa Clara on Monday, the week of May 15th, and you want to come hang out with us, we'd love to have you there. We'll be around if you have any other additional questions. My conclusion is this is a wonderful, wonderful industry. It's growing. Even at my age, at my situation, I love doing what I do in the IoT space. I think I'm learning every day. So many new potential partners and players and product providers and application developers. It's such an exciting place to be. So if you're in the ecosystem, you owe it to us within the ecosystem to help grow this business. And it's going to come from the channel. So
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much.